Today, we'll be doing something a little different and getting into what truly matters when you're planning and vacationing at Walt Disney World. Hello and welcome to the Let's Go to Disney podcast. I'm Oliver.
And I'm Lucy.
Today is Sunday, February 1st, and you're listening to episode 125. Feeling overwhelmed planning Disney? Here's what actually matters. Before we get into today's main topic, here's what's going on in the parks right now. The repainting of Cinderella Castle has officially begun, and you can already see some of the sections of the castle that are looking a little less pink, and then some sections already actually have some gray on them. So it's not as simple as just, throwing on a new color. It's not like your walls in your basement kind of thing, right? So there's like gradients and transition and like forced perspective also comes into play. So like a lot more goes into it than what meets the eye for that. Work's going to continue for the next few months, and there will be cranes up during the daytime, right? We talked about that last week. Disney did say that they're going to lower these every afternoon, right? To allow for essentially unobstructed views so that you can get your photos, right? Which is nice. But yeah, we can expect that to last well into 2026.
Yeah, don't let that deter you because when the cranes will be down in the afternoon, you can't get the shot, but it won't ruin your first time seeing it or anything like that. And it's still just as magical.
Exactly.
We've been there with cranes. We get it.
That's right.
But it didn't affect us whatsoever.
That's right, because when they were painting it pink, I guess, is when we were last there. So when there's cranes up, essentially.
Yes.
But yeah, it didn't take away from it. Yeah. So yeah, over at Animal Kingdom, Disney shared a sneak peek at the new menu items at Harambe Market, which has been closed for refurbishment since last October. So it's set to reopen on March 1st, and they're going to have a big menu, right? But it's going to have a bacon cheeseburger for sure, chicken tenders, salads, a chicken wrap, and some sweet options as well, and some drinks, of course. It's sure to have a lot more offerings, but this is a good indication of things to come this spring.
Yeah.
It's going to be nice to have another restaurant up in the Africa section of the park for sure.
Absolutely. Animal Kingdom, it's going to be a heavy hitter once everything opens up again.
There's already great food there with Salatu the Canteen and Flame Tree Barbecue. Yeah. And in the new Encanto section, they're supposed to open one of the largest quick services on property. So
I think a lot of people are not going to sleep on Animal Kingdom anymore once everything is opened and ready, like Encanto, Indiana Jones, all that stuff. I think it's going to be a popular place.
Yeah, and if we can expect, some South American cuisine there too, that's going to be hugely appealing to a lot of people. So yeah, that's going to be good.
And then over on the West Coast, Disney California Adventure will be celebrating its 25th anniversary very soon, which is crazy to me because I was there a month after it opened.
Way back in 2001.
So I'm old.
Yep.
And because I was 15 at the time. So yes, I am old, but do your math. I'm old.
Yeah.
So this has actually flown quite under the radar given the massive 70th celebration for Disneyland that's been going on for the last several months and it's going to actually continue into August. The festivities at the DCA are set to begin on February 6th. Soarin' Over California will be back for a limited time from February 6th through to July 1st. Mickey and Minnie will have new outfits with fun, vibrant colors, including a sun on both of their shirts. There will also be some fun snacks, merchandise, pins, and a Pixar pal-around popcorn bucket, and much more to commemorate the festivities. I saw the popcorn bucket. It's pretty cute.
I know, it's super cute. And we've mentioned this before. We're not popcorn bucket people.
No.
Their very first one was the Christmas one this past year that we picked up at Mickey's Very Merry Christmas Party. But
this one is fun. I like
would
this
get
one.
this one
Yeah,
if I was
fun.
there. For
it's
sure.
unique.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Disney Cruise Line dropped some significant savings this week. So DCL is offering 20% off select sailings, along with a $250 onboard credit for select sailings on the Disney Dream and the Disney Wish for sailings between April and July of this year. This deal is available to book between now and March 29th. We actually don't always see savings like this with DCL. So if you are looking for a reason to cruise, look no further.
Yeah, 100%. Absolutely. And for us, it's just business as usual, right? We're into February finally, right? After the year that was January, you always see those reels and those jokes,
that's right, yeah.
Like those memes and whatnot. But yeah, January always feels like such a long month, right? It's just post holidays and getting back to work and it just drags on because of the weather.
Agreed.
And yeah. Anyways, aside from that, though, it's, there's nothing really new for us. It's just a week like normal. We actually got a ton done yesterday on Saturday, which freed up our Sunday today, which is nice. Doesn't always happen.
It doesn't always happen. So we'll definitely appreciate that.
Yeah, for sure. So with that said, let's get into today's main topic, which will be what really matters when you're planning a trip to Walt Disney World. So today, I mean this more of in a broad sense. So I guess you can say in terms of the emotional attachment or the memories you're going to be making as a family when you're down there, really getting at the foundation of what a Disney vacation can mean to you and your people, right? During and long after you've taken the trip and you're back home.
Absolutely. So planning a vacation these days can feel like a lot. And then more than that, it actually is a lot. There is so much information out there, more than ever before. And for those of you that visited Disney, let's say 6 or 7 years ago or even longer, it's changed in major ways over that time span. So it can definitely seem daunting or overwhelming when you are starting to plan a trip, especially when you are bombarded with information from every direction.
Yeah, absolutely right. That's when the FOMO becomes real, right? It kind of sets this expectation that you have to experience all the things or your vacation won't be as great as it could have been. And the biggest culprit here is social media.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And don't get me wrong, like social media is a great tool and there's lots of really good information out there. And there's some really good creators that are putting out quality and informative content, right, on a routine basis, which is great. We love them too, right? We don't live in Florida or even in the US for that matter. So, following along with these folks that are there all the time is really a great way to feel connected to the parks in between trips because, that's for the locals that are, they can just pop in, on a Wednesday or a Thursday or for the start of every festival or the start of, every new restaurant or every new ride or every new whatever the thing is.
Absolutely.
It's nice to be able to follow along, right?
Absolutely.
So we can definitely see the appeal, right?
Yeah, there's definitely some great ones out there. But as many of you are already aware, there are some less than ideal aspects of social media, not least of which is that FOMO that Oliver was just talking about. And having so much content out there can attribute to this feeling that literally everyone out there knows more than you. And unless you get to be as knowledgeable as you perceive those people to be, you're just not going to get the most out of your vacation. But honestly, that is just not true. There is so much to do at Disney, like literally so much. You can really go down a rabbit hole and get really granular about specific things, whether that's snacks, merch, resorts, lightning lanes, whatever the thing is. There is so much content out there about each specific thing. And if you are really passionate about chicken tenders and you want to know which ones are the best ones on property, well, that's great. But trying to take that all in and have the perfect everything, like each thing that you do has to be perfect, it can quickly get exhausting and overwhelming and just take some of the magic out of planning.
Yeah, 100%, right? I totally agree with that. And that's where that comparison culture comes in, right? And that's such a slippery slope because, everyone's going to love to tell you about their vacation and their experiences. And, that sometimes can be super helpful for obvious reasons, but it can sometimes also come from that lens of, this is what worked for us. And while some like general advice, preparing for the heat if you're going in the summer, like that's not disputed, right? That applies to everyone. It's not really something that, people are going to disagree with. But some of the more like minute details of a trip are going to vary hugely from person to person, right? And family to family. And just because someone thought that Oga's Cantina, was just the best thing at Disney, it doesn't mean that it's going to be the best for you and your party. If
Absolutely.
you're, super introverted and you hate being stuck next to other people in close proximity, Oga's Cantina is probably not going to be for you.
You're going to be miserable.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And versus if you have somebody that's super outgoing or, just a much more,
can chat with anybody.
Yeah, then you likely will have a good time. Right.
Agreed.
So again, different strokes for different folks and that's totally okay. But just
Absolutely.
because something worked for, your friends, your neighbors, your other family members, right, it not necessarily means that it's going to be the best for you.
True.
So we realize that's easier said than done, right? But try not to get caught up in just comparing your vacation to someone else's. And that can take a lot of the pressure off, right? We've been guilty of that as well, right? Like envy of someone else's perfect photos on social media, but just recognizing and like, we all know this inherently, but it's just not real life, right? Life is not that polished and perfect. It's messy and it's real.
Every parent had to bribe their child to look that nice in a photo, I promise.
For sure, right? We can't be perfect all the time. And your family is still your family no matter where you are, right? Disney parks included. Yeah.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you, 100% accurate. The photos that make it on our personal pages are the snapshots of when things are going well, even if a smile is less than ideal in that moment. Of course, there are actual magical moments in between where things are going really well, but of course, it's not like that all the time. We actually shared one of those photos on our personal pages a little while ago, and it just highlights what we are saying perfect. So I actually took a candid shot of Oliver and the kids eating ice cream in the France Pavilion, sitting by the water fountain that's not too far from l'Artisan des Glaces. But anyways, the photo is taken like mid-afternoon. It was super hot, We were all a little tired, a little cranky, hungry at that point too. That's why we were having a snack. It's just a part of the reason we took the photo. It is actually hilarious because Oliver and the two kids look tired and cranky. Our son is literally just sitting there with his hand on his face because he's so tired.
His hat is kind of disheveled.
Our daughter is just looking at her ice cream, kind of defeated.
Yeah.
Oliver is just staring off into space.
Yeah, I had already finished my ice cream.
You had, yeah. But seconds later, I asked them all to smile and I got a super cute photo, which we absolutely love. But I ended up posting both, saying reality versus Instagram, right?
Exactly.
So long story short, photos and social media, it's just not real life, right? It's polished, it's captured generally the perfect moment or a forced moment to bring back good memories when you are back home. And of course, we completely understand that. We want those good photos too. It's just setting that expectation that even though you're at Disney, real life is what happens in between the photos.
Exactly. Couldn't agree more. So yeah, between all the things like lightning lanes and dining and park strategies and just everything else in between, right? It's a lot. And you don't have to master it all to have a great vacation, right? That's not a thing. If you don't plan the perfect strategy or, the perfect park day itinerary, it doesn't mean you won't have a great vacation. And even if you did, say like you even did plan the perfect park itinerary and you like down to the minute and everything, is meticulously
flawless,
itemized and but a wrench could be thrown in your plans anyways, right? It could rain, the ride could close down,
it happens every day.
Your flight could be delayed and like you don't make it for your first day. Like all of these things can happen, right? So yeah, like that's just the reality. So if you ever, you're worrying that you're going to waste your money or that you're doing Disney wrong in a broad sense, right? Because you don't feel super knowledgeable. Walt Disney World is a magical place any way you slice it, and you will have great times no matter how your vacation looks in the end. So what I'm saying here is that if you're feeling overwhelmed, it doesn't mean you're bad at planning or that you're going to miss out, right? It just means that you're human, and it can be, and it is a lot. And we have several friends, and maybe it's because we started the podcast in the last couple of years, but people are talking to us about Disney more than ever before, I feel like. And like we've had a ton of friends that have gone to Disney for the first time, I'd say probably in the last like year and a half, 2 years. And every time, and I'm sure you found this as well, but it just feels like they're just overwhelmed and they're like, presenting us their plans. Like, is this good or what am I missing or what do I have to do? Like it's all so much. And like, you kind of feel for them in that instance because you're like, it is so much, but you don't have to have it all down pat to have a great time. Yeah. And you don't need to have it all down pat before you get there. Right. Yeah. Some of the things, it's okay to figure it out on the fly.
Absolutely.
Right. Like, and we've been guilty of that too. Right. But like, it doesn't need to be all perfect before you leave to be a magical place. It's a magical place anyway you slice it.
Actually, one of my friends, he and his wife and little one are off in March to go to Disney. They're staying on resort. I've given them some tips and tricks and sent them some episodes, but they're rocking it. They're figuring it out and they're just kind of go with the flow. They also have a 1-year-old, so you do have to go with the flow more than anything. And then I have another coworker friend, and his wife and 2 girls. They're going next year, and I'm sending them stuff too. But they're figuring it out. They're going to figure out what works best for them, and they're staying offsite. So everybody does things a little bit differently.
For sure. And my friend Dave is actually down there as we speak. Yep. So they are just wrapping up their cruise. They did a land and sea, so they were at the parks first, and then they were on a cruise. But it's funny because I was at work and we work at the same place. So he texted me one morning and he's like, hey, I'm coming by your office. And I'm like, okay, what's up? So he sits down and he's like, I need to book my lightning lanes. I'm like, did your 7-day window open? He's like, yeah, it opened this morning. So I'm kind of like, why didn't you do it this morning? But then I'm like realizing like, okay, it's not a big deal. Like
he's not as stressed as Oliver would be in that moment.
And again, like I said, I've been guilty of that too, right? But like we got it figured out. We got them booked. Like it took like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
But all that to say is that, that's the thing. It's the stress of planning it for the first time and not really knowing, right? Am I doing this right? Like, help me, right? Show me the things. And it's like, it's okay. If you don't have it exactly perfect, that's fine.
Yeah. And honestly, Disney never used to be this complicated either, right? Before the advent of social media, planning a last minute trip was actually much more feasible back then, or at least it just felt that way. You didn't have so much content pushing for that perfect vacation. It really is only in the last 10 to 15 years or so that this culture of travel blogs and photos and videos have completely skyrocketed. Disney didn't used to do this either, but they've bought in since, obviously. Their social media nowadays are alive and well and very, very active. And the Disney Parks blog is hugely popular resource for guests planning Disney vacations. And then the Foodie Guides is a perfect example of that, right? Check out all of these fun snacks you can have on your vacation kind of thing. And it works. People love it.
Yeah, for sure. With us included, right? Like I love getting those foodie guides and, planning the snacks that we're going to have beforehand, right? Getting an idea of, which ones we're going to prioritize for whatever food call is going on. But yeah, that wasn't always a thing. If you backtrack again, not that far, 10, 15 years ago, that was not a thing. It didn't exist, right? So at least not in the way that it does today. But what we're trying to say is that I agree with Lucy, right? It feels complicated, or it can feel complicated, but it certainly doesn't have to be. So here's what I tell someone planning their first trip today to alleviate some of that pressure that a lot of people feel when they're first starting to think about a Disney vacation. Okay, so people tend to really stress about this, like doing every single attraction, mastering Lightning Lane, having every meal and snack like meticulously planned out, getting that perfect photo in a very specific spot, right? And not to sound pessimistic, but these things matter a lot less than you might think. And we've been guilty of building on this hype surrounding this as well, right? But when you really get down to brass tacks, if you don't get everything done in your park day that you wanted to, the sky won't fall.
True.
Right? Each park has literally so much going on. It's impossible to do it all in one day, or even in a trip for that matter. And from the lens of people who have been often in a lot, we're still experiencing something new every single time we go down. There's just too much. And we go down like, every few months, and like, it never fails, something new opens, right? Or something, it could be a restaurant, it could be a ride, it could be, something that was down for refurbishment that finally reopens. Like there's always something new going on, and we are experiencing something new constantly.
So much more to come too in the Disney parks.
For sure,
it's going to be insane in the next 5 years.
Exactly. So what it comes down to is just tapering your expectations to your absolutely most important things, right? The most important things to you and your family. And then just understanding that anything else above and beyond is just gravy on top, right? Or the cherry on top. And that's in our experience, right? This is personal, but it's just the best mindset to approach your park days with.
Absolutely. And even then, something could happen that throws a wrench in those plans as well. You could head to Magic Kingdom for early entry, dead set on riding Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, and it just doesn't open. This has happened to us more times than we can count, and not just at Magic Kingdom. We have experienced this at every single park at different times. But even if you have to pivot, or you're fumbling your way through trying to figure out how to best use your lightning lanes, or you have to stop in for a quick bite simply just because you're all feeling so hungry, all of these things are okay. You do not have to be a lightning lane guru and a snack expert and all the things at all times. That's a lot, and it's not necessary to have a great day and then more broadly, a great vacation.
Agreed 100%. And when it comes to planning, you're much better off just focusing on how you're going to pace your days and your vacation as a whole, so you don't push your family past their breaking point where at that point, no one is having fun, right? Knowing when to slow down is a virtue, and sometimes having a meal like outside the park or heading back to the resort just for some quiet time, like, either in your room, on your devices, or reading a book, right? Just away from the hustle and bustle of the parks, or, going for a swim just to cool down and just to, chill for a little bit is exactly the reset that everyone needs, including parents, right? We can't tell you how many times we've witnessed family squabbles, and they are disproportionately happening in the mid-afternoon when it is super hot outside.
Agreed.
That's when tempers tend to really flare, and really, like, again, just from the outside looking in, what that family needs more often than not is a break, right? A snack, some cold water, just like some time out of the heat, out of the park, just to relax for a little bit.
Exactly. Honestly, a flexible approach and just being able to pivot if the weather takes a turn for the worse or the family's energy dips, right? It's so important to have some flexibility. Being able to let the day evolve based on what's going on, we promise you, will have a much bigger impact on how everyone perceives on how the vacation went in the end. If you are a little bit more patient and kind with yourselves and each other when you're on that flight home, or reflecting on how your trip went when you're back home, it'll be a lot better than pushing everybody too hard or letting unexpected things that you can't control ruin your day in the moment. And we don't mean to grandstand here. We know that's way easier said than done. And we won't pretend that we've pushed on when we probably should have just taken a breather, or that we've lost patience when we could have been a little bit more patient. But it's not about being perfect. It's just about being good enough.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, that applies to just life in general, not just the Disney parks. But yeah, again, like Lucy said, we're not here to lecture anybody, but it's just, again, if you're just a little bit more relaxed in your approach, typically speaking, even when there's hiccups, right? It just doesn't seem
We've had many a hiccups. Our first trip ever with the kids, our daughter was so sick
for the first 2 days.
First 2.5, if not 3 days. So we get it. And we had to really pivot. And,
For sure.
Yeah.
And you remember, like, we went to Storybook Dining at Artist Point, right?
Yeah.
So, that's like a $200, $250 meal.
Yeah.
And Sophia, poor girl, she just was not feeling well, but she didn't eat, right?
Nope.
So it's just a bummer all around. But at the end of the day, it didn't ruin the trip.
And
it didn't ruin the day either, right? But
next year we went back to that restaurant again.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody was good. And
For
we
sure.
enjoyed that experience a lot more that time around.
Yeah. Exactly. And like Lucy's saying, right? Some of our best memories is when we've changed plans on the fly, right? So sometimes in major ways. So for example, on our last trip, we had a Magic Kingdom day all planned out. And then this was actually the last day of our trip. And we all had a bit of, I would say, theme park fatigue, right? So we made a last minute breakfast reservation at Ohana. And we just had such a great time. Sophia is still a huge Stitch fan, so she loved it, and both kids loved it.
Yeah.
And afterwards, we didn't even actually go back to Magic Kingdom. We went to Epcot and we rode Guardians, and we ended our day much earlier than we had intended. And we ended that day with the swim at the resort.
Yep.
So we still talk about how great of a day that was, even though like it wasn't at all what we had initially envisioned when we set out for the day. And,
Absolutely.
And that's totally fine, right? So what it boils down to is that Disney shouldn't be about maximizing every aspect of your vacation and every moment, right? Sometimes what can happen is that everything turns into optimization, right? But the magic of Disney, it lives in, and this is going to sound corny, but it lives in the moments, not the metrics.
Yes.
So what I mean is the good memories you're making with your loved ones is what really matters. It's not going to matter, how many rides you rode or how many times you rode them. What's going to matter is the fun times you had as a family or as a group, right? The good memories don't have to be big things, right? They can be small things, but stacking those small things becomes significant. And that's what makes a great vacation.
I completely agree. It can honestly be sitting on a bench for a snack or watching your kid react to something small, like a detail that maybe nobody else noticed. And like Oliver was saying, having a resort evening instead of a park evening, enjoying the pool, having fun together. A great Disney trip isn't the one where you do the most. It's the one where you actually enjoy it the most. So we're going to wrap up with this. To make planning feel a little lighter and not quite so overwhelming, we suggest limiting how much content you consume. And that is not specific Disney content, but for the purposes of this episode, we do mean for Disney content specifically. Like we've been saying, you can really go down the rabbit hole by following a ton of people. So we'd say pick your few favorites and I promise that is going to be enough.
Yeah, for sure.
They're going to be able to provide you. Honestly, our favorites, so for example, is Disney Food Blog. This is a major one that so many people love, us included.
Oh yeah, for sure. And just AJ's voice is soothing, right? I just love. And
she has a book out now.
Yeah, Disney Adults. I enjoyed it. Yeah. And just the music and her voice. It's just, I like to watch her YouTube videos having my coffee in the morning. It's just
she's
comforting.
Reliable. She has an entire team of staff that are in the parks every single day, checking out everything new, doing everything that you can't possibly even think to do sometimes.
No, for sure.
They're doing it.
Yeah.
So when we were stuck at home during the pandemic, dreaming about when we got to go back to Disney, we watched so many Disney food blog videos on YouTube and it helped a lot.
And we're not affiliated with Disney Food Blog, right? But we
wish.
That's the thing. Like a lot of people, we just like
She's
the content,
just the best,
right?
And her team is the best. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Very positive, very informative too, and honest. And it's just, but that's the thing. What Lucy's saying is pick, whatever your 2-3 top creators that you really like. And assuming that you're getting all the information that you need, right? Whether that's resorts or food or tickets or whatever the thing is, then you don't need to follow every single person because then it just becomes a little bit overwhelming, right? And a couple of last little tidbits just of friendly advice, right? When you're planning for a week or however long you're there, build in some half days or a full rest day if you're there for long enough, right? Make sure to leave room for spontaneity in your plans, like we've been saying, right? That can be some of the most fun you're going to have. Remember, you're not behind in your planning. You don't need to know everything before you go. And if things don't go as planned, you can absolutely still have a wonderful vacation.
I could not agree more. Our first one was probably planned to a T.
Yeah.
Right?
For sure.
And we have learned since then.
Yeah.
We actually had no rest days with our kids on our first trip.
Yeah.
Which was insane.
Yeah.
Because first off, Sophia was sick.
Yeah.
And they were so tired by the end of it all.
We pushed them so hard.
We did because we were so concerned about it being the perfect trip for them, right?
We didn't want to miss anything, right? And so we understand that feeling.
And we are obviously, a priority for us is going back every year, but you never know. You may not get to go back every year, right? So we were worried, what if this was the one trip for a long time? Well, now we've realized, no, our kids need like we're paying good money to stay on these resorts too. They
Yes,
have great pools.
exactly.
We need to take a day and just chill,
And
not sleep in,
that's
not
the
wake
thing.
up early, no alarms.
And it makes the park days, like taking rest out of the parks
Yep.
makes the parks that much more fun.
Oh, so
right?
much
Because
fun.
you're not
And
like
even just
squeezing every possible minute out of it.
absolutely.
Right?
And just like if you get lots of stuff done in the morning because it's just been a really good day, okay, that's time for a break now.
Yeah.
Let's pivot.
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly. You pick up a last minute dining reservation if you can get it, or go swim, or
Yep.
go to Disney Springs, or
Yep.
go check out a resort
Lots
you've
to
never
do.
seen. Yeah, there's lots going on. Yeah. So anyways, with that said, thank you for joining us today to talk Disney. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any future episodes. And as always, if you could leave us a rating and review, it would be greatly appreciated. If you choose to do so, you can leave reviews right on Apple Podcasts. And for Spotify, you can leave a rating.
You can also find us on Instagram and TikTok at Let's Go to Disney, as well as on our Facebook page, Let's Go to Disney. We share some helpful reels here as well as some fun ones. The link tree in the show notes will take you to all of our socials.
Have a great day, and we'll see you real soon.